Hello, Real Life family. I'm excited today to do another podcast here for our church family, and this is an important one. Today, I am here with the superintendent of Post Falls School District, and her name is Dena Naccarato. And we normally don't get involved in politics or things that are considered politics here. We kind of stay down the middle. We teach the biblical truth, but when it comes to being involved, we don't say we're this party or that party. We try to help in every possible way and be a light to our area. And so the school levy issue is coming up, and that's something that we care very much about here at Real Life Ministries. We have had ongoing partnerships with every school district in this area. And so we have friendships, we partner, we do things together. And I wanted to say a couple of things about this. I know that nationally there are a lot of battles, a lot of things happening as it pertains to teachers' unions, school districts around the United States. And oftentimes many of our folks are watching Fox News or they're watching some of these other programs, they're listening to conservative talk radio, and there's an angst and a frustration for Christians towards those kind of things. I want to remind you here that this place we get to live, is not one of those places. We are not California. We are not Chicago. We are not some of those areas. We are North Idaho, and we have a really unique way of life here. And we don't want to bring national anger into a school district or an area where there isn't the same kind of problems there are nationally. And so I want to introduce to you Dena, and we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to ask some important questions that I know people are hearing out there, and I want to answer that. And I even know that there's a conservative group of people that have kind of assigned vote no on this subject in a voter information sort of situation. And I disagree with them. I'm just going to tell you right now. I think we should vote yes for this issue because we're about helping kids. And so I'm going to deal with some of the issues that I've been hearing. I'm going to give Dena a chance to answer those questions. And then we'll have a conversation. So, Dena, it's really nice to have you here. Thanks for coming down and having a conversation.
Thank you for having me. And I really can't say enough about the partnership that we've enjoyed really from the very beginnings of Real Life. I think the very beginning, church was in one of our middle schools, if I remember correctly. And as your congregation grew and you were able to have this amazing facility, we've just partnered on so many things. So I really can't thank you enough for the opportunity to kind of clear up some of the misconceptions that we're dealing with right now. Yeah.
I know I've heard several things that people are saying, and I want to give you an opportunity to explain, especially for so many people that are moving to our area that don't know how it works here in Idaho.
Sure.
And again, there's a lot of people here are political refugees. That's what they'll call themselves. They got out of where they were at because of what was happening there. And so they could assume that there's some things that are similar. And, I want to clear that up for people. But tell me about the levy system, how that works.
So in the state of Idaho, school districts have the ability to supplement the state appropriation through a supplemental levy every 2 years. And so basically the levy dollars cover the shortfalls from the state budget. And really, school districts weren't as reliant on supplemental levies until about 2006, when the legislature changed the taxing infrastructure for schools and basically gave a property tax relief, added a cent sales tax, and the cent sales tax was supposed to kind of backfill for schools. And then the recession hit. And so schools became more and more and more reliant on supplemental levy dollars. So right now, 93 of 115 school districts in the state of Idaho run supplemental levies to help kind of backfill the state appropriation. And we obviously are one of those 93. Right. This particular levy, levy dollars for us cover things like extracurricular activities. And ultimately, any enhancement activities, gifted and talented programs, school nurses. All of our nurses are funded by the levy. Our school resource officers are funded in part by grant dollars and levy dollars. And first and foremost, 85% of a school district's budget goes to people. We're in the people business. We need teachers and support staff to support kids each and every day. And so levy dollars obviously support staffing and try to keep our class sizes reasonable and that kind of thing. So that's where the money goes. It's to our people and to our kids.
Right. You know, I've heard some folks frustrated by, okay, you might have bought new uniforms or those kinds of things. And I'm always like, well, okay, hold on. Sports programs, either the kids pay for them or the school pays for them. You can't use ones that are 30 years old.
Right.
You know, so there is some of that, but you guys...
There's quite a bit of fundraising that goes on in athletic programs for things like new uniforms and that kind of thing. So, like when the wrestling team is pushing the car down the road and people are paying for them to push the car around the neighborhood and those kinds of things, that's usually because they're going to take a trip somewhere or they need new uniforms or something like that. I mean, the same thing with football, band, all of it. I mean, those extra things, those extra trips, those kinds of things are usually...
Most of us in the area have had to supplement fundraising in one way or another when a kid comes to our door or one of those things. So, Dena, the levy amount you're asking for is $4.9 million, and I know that other schools are asking for different amounts. Yours is like, this is one of the largest, and it's growing the most, yet you guys didn't ask for what you could be asking for. Explain that a little bit.
So we have a history of fiscal conservatism in our district. So we're asking for $4.95 million a year for 2 years. We have approximately 6,000 students. The Lakeland School District has about a third of that number, and Coeur d'Alene is about a third larger. So when you compare our levy amount to our neighboring districts, we are extremely conservative. We've got hardworking people, and the taxpayer in Post Falls is getting a lot of bang for their buck, is what I would say, in our school system.
So you guys are, you're not going for the bank here. You're trying to play it, which is a little bit surprising why I didn't pass the first time.
It was shocking to us because we were asking for the least amount of money of the three local districts. What I think happened was we've enjoyed so much success for so many years with 70% approval rating from our voters and our taxpayers. We have not raised taxes in this school district for 20 years. So we ask for a set amount. That's all we get. On our website, we have an example of taxes from 2019 to 2020. In this particular case, the assessed value of the home went up. Their school district tax bill actually decreased. And we expect as we continue to grow that people will also notice their school district taxes will decrease.
Which that's not normal.
Well, we're growing, and so again, since it's a set amount of money and it's not based on the levy rate, we don't automatically get a raise if assessed value goes up. We ask for the set amount, that's all we get. And so people should be seeing actually a decrease in their school district taxes.
Oh, that's awesome. I think many Idahoans that watch the national news are really frustrated by the teachers' unions being unwilling to go back to school when even the CDC guidelines suggest that. And that wasn't the case here with the teachers here. That's not the same.
No, it's not the same. So, I mean, I think people forget that our teachers are part of our community, and we live in a conservative area. And so our teachers' union, we have a very good working relationship with our teachers' union, and we were working through how to open school with our teachers' union and really with local school districts. We were all trying to figure out how are we going to have school during a pandemic because closing is not an option. And so honestly, when we wrote our operational plan and we started off in a hybrid situation where we had half the kids coming 2 days a week and the other half coming the other 2 days a week, at the time, because we'd never done it before, we thought it was brilliant, and we were just so happy to have kids back in school. And our timing was off at the beginning of the school year. You know, we were in the hybrid, cases continued to rise. We thought we were going to get different direction, different guidelines from the governor, the health district, who knew who, but we didn't want to flip-flop. And unfortunately, we ended up flip-flopping simply because our timing couldn't have been worse. And I take full responsibility for that. But when we rewrote our operational plan and we came back to school 4 days a week before Thanksgiving, we've been in school 4 days a week and now 5 days a week the entire school year. And the relationship with the union was, we want to come back to school. How do we get kids back in school safely? How do we make sure our teachers and support staff are safe? It wasn't about, let's not come to school. That was never.
Well, I'd like to, I appreciate you falling on the sword on that. I get that because, for us as a church, we had people upset that we closed for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Then we had people upset that we came back, and we would try to get information from the governor, from the sheriff, from this, it kept changing all the time.
It did.
And there's never been a pandemic situation like this before. People want to debate how real the pandemic was or not in hindsight. At the time, we didn't know.
Right.
And people were dying.
Yeah.
And not everybody. We didn't know the percentages. And I just hate it when people look back with hindsight's 20/20 and they want to make snap judgments as if they would have done better in a situation that's unprecedented. And so I've been appreciative of how quickly you've gone back. And we have a ton of teachers and principals in our church, and I have 2 sisters that are teachers in this area. And their commitment and their level of wanting to go back, it's just not the same as what's happening nationally. And I thought, based on all the circumstances that I know I was struggling with, our elders were struggling with, I thought you did pretty good.
Well,
I'd give you a very good grade on all of that.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll tell you, in September and October, I wasn't feeling like I was doing very well. It was, as you said, things were changing all the time. Information was changing all the time. The number of cases were changing. The guidelines were changing. It was very difficult, and it was hard to make the right decision. So
one of the things I thought you did that was brilliant is, we got to partner together when teachers didn't know what to do with their kids.
Yes.
You and
So
I and our
grateful.
team, we have a team that just came to us and said, hey, we have teachers that don't know what to do with their kids. So what if we made the partnership? And you just jumped right on that. You made that happen. And
well, you made that happen, and we can't thank you enough for supporting our staff while we're trying to get kids in school. I mean, that was amazing.
I'd like to take credit for that, but it was our children's ministry team who knew teachers who were, and they came and they committed to doing it, and our church helped with that. So I just thought that was an awesome opportunity for us to partner. I get some pushback, obviously, from the homeschool kids,
Sure.
parents who, when it comes to paying for levies, they have to pay, but their kids don't go to school there. And I get that. I homeschooled my kids for a little while, but then again, my kids also played in the sports programs. The thing about our area is if you're homeschooled and you live in a school district, you still get to play in the sports programs. And so I get it. I mean, that's always going to be a tension for those who don't want to do that. And I have to say, hey, not everybody can homeschool kids. So if you can't homeschool your kids, what other options do you have? And you have to think about not just your own situation, but the other folks' situation. I have some people say, well, Mike, I don't have any kids in the school district. But I'm like, well, wait a second. Our job isn't to just be selfish and worry about ourselves. If we don't have kids in school and educated, busy, then that's going to come back to bite our community in some serious ways. And so I'm like, wait a second, that isn't the right way to think. I don't have any kids in school anymore either. But I still voted for the bond in Lakeland.
Right.
Because those, especially in Lakeland, Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, where we have an opportunity to be in partnership with the schools and they allow it, why wouldn't we continue to have that relationship? So I don't really understand the way some people think about that. I'd like to have a world where we didn't have to tax people in any way, and we had lesser tax and all that. But I don't know that we could come up with a way to fund school districts without some sort of tax program. So there's things I wish we would cut back on taxes on.
Sure.
Not sure that would be the school district, would be my view of that. I think the other part of that is nationally, some of the things that are being taught right now that make Christians nervous are, for instance, I'm so against racism, I can't tell you. But now they've kind of redefined racism to deal with gender issues and homosexuality issues. And that, for me, isn't race. That's a different sort of issue, but it's been connected. So what Christian families are concerned about is that that's going to be promoted within the school district.
And it isn't. Again, our curriculum does not teach any of that kind of thing. It simply does not. And our curriculum is approved by our school board, and our school board is representative of the community in which we live. So anytime, for example, we have child development videos, in the 5th grade when kids are entering puberty
Right.
and their bodies are changing and that kind of thing, parents have the ability to preview the video. They have the ability to opt out of anything that they're not comfortable with. The idea that we are promoting any kind of agenda in Post Falls School District is simply not true.
Right. There's no elimination of specific books on critical race theory.
It's funny that you bring up critical race theory because we actually had to look it up so that we knew as an administrative team what it even meant.
Right.
It is not in any of our curricula, nor is the 1619 project. Some of these trigger terms, they're not in our curriculum. They're
Right.
just simply not. It's a pretty traditional
Right.
education that kids are getting in the
some of the
Post
school
Falls
districts are nationally. I mean, this is really happening. So I understand why people are really upset, but we don't have that here.
No, we don't. And one of the things that as a superintendent's group we talked about, because, our legislature is struggling a little bit this year, we said they need to come into our schools and see what we're actually doing. We wrote a letter to re-invite any legislator to come in and see what's happening in Idaho schools, because it's not happening here. It's not happening in Post Falls. So please come in and see the amazing work our teachers do each day.
Well, what
no one would be upset about it.
Yeah, what I always say to people is, listen, I work with youth a lot. I love kids. It's my passion, honestly. I probably would rather be doing that than being a senior pastor. But I started hearing a lot of sort of gender, homosexuality sort of talk coming from the kids. And so this was going on at the Lakeland School District at the time. So I go in and start asking questions and what's going on. And she said, Becky Myers, that's not in our curriculum. We're not teaching that. That's coming from social media. So if these parents want to be freaked out about stuff, what happens in Hollywood and what happens in social media is what's driving that conversation peer to peer. It isn't coming from the teachers, and it isn't coming from the superintendent in our area and from the principals.
No, it is
and so they need to pay attention to that. They want to get upset, do that. Don't decide not to fund the levy. That's not the same thing. Okay, so, well, I just want to thank you for coming down and having the conversation. Again, people have to decide what they're going to do based on their conscience. I just want it to be based on the right information for this area. And I don't want what's out there in the world to be assumed is happening here. If it was, I would be the first one to go, wait a second, now we have some issues. I just don't see that. As we kind of bring this to a conclusion, what are some of the things that you would say to folks if you got the chance personally?
Well, what I would say is if you're curious about what's happening in our school district or where levy dollars go, I would direct people to pfsd.com, our website. On our main page, we've kind of revamped it so there's more graphics so you can actually see the great things that are going on in the Post Falls School District that are supported by levy dollars. Included on that page is a fact sheet, so you can click on Fast Facts and kind of go to, this is what we teach, this is where money goes, that kind of thing. We've revamped our finance page completely. I think most people are aware that school district budgets are published each year in June. We're audited independently each year. Those audits are public information. Our monthly expenditures are also public information. And now with federal stimulus money, we've actually added a link where you can click on federal stimulus dollars, and it will take you through the first set of federal stimulus line by line. Where did that money go? The second batch of federal stimulus line by line. Where did that money go? And since we're talking about money, one of the other things that I think is important for people in Idaho to know is that in mid-January, the governor basically said he was going to decrease our appropriation in support unit dollars. And so for the Post Falls School District, that that support unit money is a critical part of our operating budget. And for us, that was a $1.4 million decrease. So the next round, when we're able to access federal stimulus money, we will actually be backfilling what the state originally told us they were going to give us with federal dollars so that we can make ends meet this school year. Basically what happened was, so we got a round of roughly $900,000 and some change, and that kind of backfilled the closure last year. Then we got another round of money. It was approximately $1.9 million. And one of the things that we were not able to do last year, we had a 5% holdback and a 1% holdback last year, was some of that money obviously had to backfill that, but we also were not able to give our teachers and support staff raises, and so we actually were able to give a stipend, if you will, kind of a hazard pay stipend for coming back to school and having school in person. And again, all this is on our website so you can see. Then this third round of stimulus money we don't actually have access to yet because the legislature has to act. It has to be signed by both the House and the Senate and go to the governor, and then we have access to that money. In the meantime, back in January, our state appropriation was cut, and basically is to be supplanted with federal dollars. I don't think the federal government's intent was to have states not fund schools, but that is how Idaho has chosen to use some of the money. So school districts across our state are having to use stimulus money to backfill the money that we thought we were going to get from the state that we are no longer receiving. It's one of those things, this has been a very challenging year for us, and it's challenging for our business managers across the state, and it's giving us opportunities to learn and grow, and
that's a positive spin.
Well,
That's good.
it's what are you going to do? I mean, to sit around and complain about it, that's not what's best for kids. It's not what's best for our teachers. One of the things that we've tried to do is make sure that regardless of what's happening, let's not focus on all the negativity because there's plenty of that out there. Let's focus on what we can do to make our community the best place it can be. And to me, putting lipstick on the pig, if you will, or whatever it is, it's just better to come at it from a growth.
Paint the really old barn.
Yeah, from a growth standpoint rather than this is.
Well, and some people go, hey, I don't really like, the teachers. They don't get, they get paid too much already. They have too much time off, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. They don't have as much time off as you think they do. Secondly, as our culture struggles and it gets darker and darker and parents don't know how to parent, and the ability to teach difficult situations for teachers, undisciplined kids, not a lot of homework, the amount of stress teachers have. I as I said, my whole family, superintendent of schools, teachers, my grandparents, my sisters, good grief. I tease them all the time. Oh, you guys get paid so much for doing nothing. And it's always a joke because I was a teacher first for a while, and there's nothing, and that was a long time ago. It's changed.
Yes.
So I just respect our teachers and love them so much. So, well, let's talk about the vote, guys. The last day for an absentee vote is May 7th. And so if you want to go and grab that and get that done, that would be really helpful. And the vote itself is May 18th. And so if you live in the Post Falls School District, I don't live in the Post Falls School District, so I don't get to vote. I voted for the levy in the north, but I want you to know I think you should. I think you should vote, and I think you should vote yes. And again, we're blessed here with a specific kind of area to live in. And I'm proud of the people we live here with and the kinds of people that are leading, and I'm proud to be a supporter of Dena and the school district here. So now you have my take on it. You have to decide what you're going to do, but God bless you. Love your real life family.